we're not just reacting to yesterday's threats, although we're always doing that. We're preparing for threats that could come in the future and trying to look around those corners. Now, this is not about, it's not about fear. It's certainly not about targeting people. This is about protecting Utah's land, our water, our infrastructure, and our service members. We welcome lawful investment and partnership, but we will not allow our adversarial governments, other adversarial governments, to gain leverage over these critical assets. In Utah, land and liberty are not for sale. We will continue doing our part to defend this country right here at home. Now, again, we're excited. We've got several other speakers that will be sharing some thoughts with you. I'm going to turn it over to Commissioner Bo Mason next, and then we will hear from Representative Candace Perucci on the land follow-up bill, followed by Representative Walt Brooks on the critical infrastructure bill, and then we'll open it up to the media for any questions that you might have. Commissioner Mason.
Good afternoon. Thank you, Governor, and thank you to the other legislative stakeholders that stand with us today. Between the Governor's leadership and our stakeholders enabling us to practice good law through good statute that's put in place, we're able to move the needle on this land security within Utah. You know, and really that's our message today, is that Utah is open to business, but we're not open to entities that threaten our state security or violate our laws. You know, traditionally, DPS is known and recognized for our response and for our enforcement efforts. But this just highlights one way that DPS, the Department of Public Safety, really is keeping Utah safe beyond our roadways. And so today I'm here to announce the divestment of a large piece of land that we were made aware of utilizing Representative Perucci's statute that was put into place a couple years ago and is being furthered this year. And that is the Twila Sports Park complex that was owned by My Time. So Governor alluded to a little bit of the process and how we do that. And let me start off by saying, first of all, the Statewide Information Analysis Center, the SIAC, is really leading out in our intelligence efforts and our innovative investigative techniques. So the way this process works, this one in particular started with a tip. We also work very closely with the county recorders, so they can make us aware of any land purchases that may be a little suspicious. But this one came through as a tip. We then utilize private sector tracking, and so we're using technologies that go in behind the scenes and track these entities and these purchasers to tie them back to restricted foreign entities. From there, we work closely with federal partners to validate that information we're seeing and use their resources to dig in behind the scenes as well. Through that process, we were able to determine that this My Time was tied to a restricted foreign entity and in violation of Utah law. We worked closely after that with the Governor's Office, the Attorney General's Office, and DFCM to issue a letter of divestment, a formal letter that informed them they needed to divest of the land and they were of moving through this process and issuing that letter. That land has now been divested and is now in the hands of a domestic partner and back in Utah's control. All that to be said, we're utilizing the latest technology, the latest processes, and the best tools we can, and coupling that with good law and good partnerships with our stakeholders and our legislature to continue to move forward, not only with land, but critical infrastructure statewide. This isn't about simply checking a box. It's really about working in depth to be proactive in our enforcement and finding these issues. The intelligence is only the first step. As you saw with all those partners, collaboration is really the key to ensuring that we can be successful in this realm. With that, by applying the same analytical rigor to land security that we do to cybercrime or organized crime, we're going to keep these threats out of Utah and stay one step ahead of these criminals. We no longer wait for a violation to happen. Instead, we are proactively monitoring them and preventing them. Thank you.
Thank you. And I would just also like to thank General Boyack, who's up here today as well, and for the men and women in uniform. We appreciate you. So we have a great group here. And honestly, when we talk about Utah, we're a state that values freedom, private property, and economic opportunity and prosperity. But we also are a state that understands responsibility, especially when it comes to protecting our national security, which is why over the last few years, we in the legislature and working with the governor and his team have taken bold and deliberate steps to counter the growing influence of authoritarian regimes. Our law restricts foreign adversaries like Russia, North Korea, Iran, and China, but especially the Chinese Communist Party we have seen as a repeat offender. We've seen their threats creeping in through subtle partnerships with schools, shell companies buying land, and technology contracts that come with invisible strings. And we have no illusions about the CCP's intentions, and we refuse to look the other way as a state. The Chinese Communist Party is not just another foreign investor. It is not a neutral economic actor. It's a hostile foreign adversary engaged in a long-term strategy to undermine the United States economically, technologically, and militarily. And this isn't speculation, right? This is documented reality when we look at what they do with intellectual property, with land property, and shell corporations, which is why here in Utah, we've tried to be proactive about this. Today is a really big win. Divesting this land and this ownership that has been so concerning is one of the reasons I started working on these policies. The land that has just been transferred and purchased by a Utah company is located right next to the Twilla Army Depot and the Utah Test and Training Range, one of the most critical military testing areas in the United States, where we test advanced weapon systems and military capabilities essential to our national defense. So you can see why it would be concerning that a CCP-owned company had set up shop right next door. And as we've gone through this process, we've learned a lot, which is why this year there is a follow-up bill, HB 291, that I'll be running, Security and Land Restriction Amendments, that is really tightening up that legislation. We are excited that thousands of acres have already been divested, a lot happening last year in 2025, but 291 is working to close loopholes so that hostile actors cannot hide behind shell companies. It's lowering the ownership threshold from 51% ownership to 25% ownership, so we can act before control is consolidated by these companies. And especially important is it brings the Attorney General's office into the process earlier to ensure meaningful enforcement and working in partnership with the Department of Public Safety. I'm really grateful for the work of my colleagues up here, Representative Brooks, General Burton, who couldn't make it, Representative Colin Jack, who also has an important bill that addresses critical water infrastructure, Senator McKay, Senator McKell have been great partners, Senator Stratton in the Senate, and we're here today because we have a duty to protect our military installations, we have a duty to protect our food supply, we have a duty to protect our critical infrastructure, and most importantly, we have a duty to protect the sovereignty of our state and our nation. So yes, Utah is open for business, but not to foreign adversaries. Thank you.
Thank you. Representative Perucci has been a great leader on this to help us lead out. Appreciate the other legislators and our good governor to be able to take this seriously. We have several bills that have gone out to be proactive in making sure that the security of Utah is intact. And we have policies and procedures not only to take care of what's in place, but make sure that we're looking forward and being proactive in this approach. Two bills that we have that I've been able to be lucky enough to sponsor. One is our critical infrastructure to make sure that we don't have malware or other opportunities for foreign adversaries to access our equipment to disrupt it. We want to make sure that the quality of life, the security that we have in Utah is maintained. So we really appreciate the efforts of everybody, all these stakeholders that have put forward to this. Is protecting our DNA sequencing, the most private of information, to make sure that it's not accepted or being able to access by those who are unauthorized. So we're grateful for all the stakeholders that put a lot of work in this over years and months to be able to make sure that Utahns are protected, that we take this cybersecurity seriously, and we're looking forward to make sure that we continue on this path. Thank you.
All right, I'm sure anybody up here would love to answer your questions.
Governor, I wanted to ask, over 10 years ago, it was known it was a Chinese company that wanted to buy the park. So what changed in that time, and what specifically caused this letter to go out for ordering divestment when it had been in the picture as a Chinese company for years?
Yeah, so again, trying to find those direct ties to the CCP that Candace mentioned that are so important. The relationship between the United States and the Chinese Communist Party has changed over the past 10 years. Certainly, there was a different posture 10 years ago. It has gone a different direction. Sadly, we of course wish that Xi Jinping and his regime would take a different course, but they have not. We've seen them acting in a much more hostile way, and so I think to Commissioner Mason's point, that's trying to find those connections. They do use shell companies, so it's sometimes hard to figure out who is the real owner of those entities. But once that's done, then we have an opportunity. Now we have a tool that will work through that. Anything you'd like to add to that, Bo? Please go ahead.
So was it last year he ran? So Representative Perucci's bill last year is what really gave us the legal authority to move forward as well. So prior to last year, we didn't have use of the technology and we didn't have the legal authority within state statute to do it. So these laws are very important to move forward, and this year's bill only expands on that, gives us more authority and some clarity in there, so it'll make this easier process in the future. This kind of being the first time, there were a few delays and hiccups because we had to work through a process that's never been done before. But we did prove it can be successful, and now we can expand on that.
Yeah, I just want to add real quick on that too, and that's why this year we're also adding into the bill. This letter is significant because, this company, we passed the bill, we tried to make a lot of noise about it, right? They've known they're out of compliance, but, it sounds like they were waiting for someone to tell them to get out. And so having that legal authority and then pulling in the Attorney General's office is really important. You'll see in the bill as well that's introduced and it's passed the House, it's on the Senate side, adds a fine as well if you don't respond, and it's a daily fine that accrues, and then after 30 days, they can confiscate your property and sell it, and that money's returned to the general fund.
I wanted to ask, just with this new bill that you are proposing to lower the threshold
Yeah.
of companies, does this mean, are we going to see more companies potentially being forced to divest since you've lowered the threshold?
That's possible. They haven't come to chat with me since I opened the bill file, but absolutely. I mean, sitting at 51%, that's still a pretty high bar, and lowering it to 25%, someone could have 25% and still be the majority shareholder. So we felt like 25% was a good spot to be at. If you look at nationally where that movement's going, that's where we're at. So it's absolutely a possibility. Also, something Department of Public Safety has is on their website. There's a link if someone is suspicious of foreign activity or a land ownership, they can go in and report it, and they'll go investigate it as part of that.
Governor, does this disrupt trade relations, this type of legislation with, we do a lot of business with China?
We do, and they're an important trading partner, and I don't think it disrupts anything when it comes to trade. What it does disrupt is, again, their ability to own real property in places that could cause serious harm, and give them access to some of our most critical facilities. So those relationships at the national level are ongoing. We know that there are constant trade talks happening again at the national level. There are other states that are doing what we're doing, and we think that it's just good policy.
What's the name of the company that bought it? You said it's a Utah-based company?
Yeah. Do you have the name of the?
They would like to stay anonymous. It's a local company.
Governor, was this a voluntary divestiture? And a couple of other fill-in-the-blanks here.
Yeah, not voluntary. I mean, it was a legal divestiture. I don't think they were excited to divest.
Okay.
I think that's
Okay, they weren't excited to sell to somebody else. Okay.
Again, it took us the enforcement piece of this. We've had other divestitures that happened voluntarily after the law was passed.
Yeah.
This is the first forced divestiture where we sent a letter and said, hey, we're coming out.
When did that happen?
Just a couple months ago, I think. Do you know? November.
November.
That's
And can you explain what the company linked to CCCP was intending to do out there, and what the new company is intending to do at that site?
Yeah. Do you have anything?
I don't think, and I think they would have a better idea. And a part of that, when I'd ask questions, they have an investigation process. So they're probably not going to walk through where all the funding streams went through, but they were able to verify, in fact, that it was a CCP shell company. And I've been told by my colleague who's had a chance to talk to the new owner that they're very excited to revitalize this and give back to the community. So I think this is a great move, not just from a national security perspective, but for that county and that area that hasn't had any development on this project thus far, and they'll be able to move on.
Yeah, I would just add that, again, the intentions always appear to be benign, and you never know. It's not necessarily what they were doing with the property, but what they could do with the property. And we know the type of command and control structure that the CCP has over these types of entities, and if the relationship were to get more adversarial, those properties could be used for nefarious purposes, and we just want to avoid that from happening.
Can you outline what those nefarious purposes could be? What are the threats to having something so close in proximity to the depot?
Well, yeah, I mean, there are lots of opportunities, and I'll let legislators jump in here. Certainly, when it comes to upending our critical infrastructure, that's something that we're worried about. That's usually that's more of a hacking type thing, but it could be again an in-person thing. I will say that the drone issue is a real issue. We've seen in both with both conflicts, Israel and Ukraine, the ability to park a truck full of drones next to a facility is something that we're always worried about. We're worried about spying on our test and training ranges, on our military bases, unauthorized drone access that is photographing these bases. So those locations and proximity, those things absolutely matter, and I'm sure there are others. Yeah. Please.
I think I looked at the general. I'm sure there's a classified version, but I cannot give that. But I will tell you, if you look at Uter and you look at Dugway and the work they're doing, I mean, it is unique, and nationally they are renowned for the work they do there. So setting up shop right next to them is a really easy target for surveillance. I think would be, for me, the #1 concern. If you look, the FBI, State Department, and Permanent Select Committee on Intelligence all have put out reports on the nefarious activities of the CCP and why they're buying up land. Last year, DPS was able to stop a CCP company as a result of this legislation from buying land next to the Provo airport. So if you follow the trends, they've tried to buy land right next to major military installations in Texas and by major airports across the country. They're looking at our critical infrastructure and military assets. It's not like they're just going down to Fairview, where the governor's from, picking up shop there, although Fairview is lovely. They're going right next to military assets. It's incredibly strategic, and they're playing the long game.
Please.
You've mentioned that there's a piece of software that you're using to help with these investigations. Can you tell us more about that, what the exact role and function of the software is?
Yeah, I'd be happy to. Chief Jensen with the Department of Public Safety. The software we're using right now and exploring this technology is a software that can take business records, public records, cell records, link analysis to identify those businesses and how they're connected to foreign entities. A lot of it has to do with the ownership. Where is the ownership leading to as far as the connection to the government, and government contracts, military contracts with other foreign entities.
I just wanted to ask you something briefly since time is short. Have you been updated on the status of Colorado River negotiations, and do you think states will get a deal?
Yeah, so what I can say is those negotiations are still ongoing. I don't think anything's changed since the last time we updated after our meeting in Washington, D.C., at least not changed in a negative way. If anything else, it's still positive. We're still talking together. I know that there have been some bilateral conversations that are happening between states where concerns exist. I know that the Secretary Burgum and his team with the administration have been very involved in those conversations and helping to bring the sides together as acting as kind of a facilitator and a negotiator, and that there's still real hope to getting a deal that will get us over the next 5 years and then a longer term deal for 20 years.
What happens if Saturday comes and we don't have a deal?
Well, it's not the end of the world. Again, that was an arbitrary deadline that was not arbitrary. I mean, it is important. We kind of backed into those deadlines. We know what has to happen. If there is an agreement in place, how long it will take to get the agreements drafted and signed, going through the environmental process that we have to as well, getting a record of decision on those negotiations. But we've given ourselves buffers in all of those deadlines, so that if we're close, we can keep the negotiations going, and that's what we're hopeful for.
Governor Newsom has expressed support for the idea of the desalination in a letter to you,
Yeah.
I understand. So are you going to the table with a desalination deal?
Yeah, those conversations are ongoing with the federal administration as well. I will say, I know I'm sometimes hard on California. California's been a really good partner in these discussions and the negotiations. They're very smart, and I think we are as well, in trying to understand that the only way that we're going to be able to flourish in the West is if we expand the pie instead of shrinking it. We know the water situation on the Colorado is dire. This year is not getting any better. It's going to be a really rough year, and the water flows just aren't there. And so that means it's going to hurt all of us, and we can fight to the death over the last drop of water, or we can work together to expand the amount of water that is available for everyone. And desalination in California then pushes water upstream. It means California needs less of that water, which means that helps Arizona, and then ultimately, again, that helps Utah and Colorado and Wyoming, the upper basin states as well. So we've got my message when we were all together is that we have the potential with red states and blue states, with 14 senators working together at the national level, members of the House of Representatives, which is a bigger chunk when you look at states like California, and we know that water flows to money, and so if there are opportunities for us to work together on those big projects, the other place that California has been really good isn't just with desalination, but on water reuse and investing in those in that kind of infrastructure as well. We're doing some of that in southern Utah, again, working with our federal partners, and that was the message. If there is some federal funding, and there appears to be some federal funding that we could utilize together to help each other out, a win for California in this case is a win for all of us, and I'm grateful that that they have been such a willing partner.
We have a final
Okay.
question.
Governor, there's been talk of a bill that would tax fuel exports that seems to have caused some tension with the Idaho legislature.
I'm not familiar with that.
Have you had a conversation with anyone about
No. So, no. What I can say is we have had some conversations with our friends in Idaho, and we're working very closely. I have not seen a bill yet. The bill is not out yet, but I can tell you we've been very engaged with our legislative partners as well, and I remain very hopeful and optimistic that we will land that bill in a place where we can all be friends and do what's good for the people of Utah and good for the people of Idaho and the Western United States as well. We care deeply about our relationship with our friends in Idaho. Again, that's not a reason to do something or not to do something. I don't represent Idaho. We represent the people of Utah, and that's our first priority for sure. But this doesn't have to be a zero-sum game. And again, much like the water discussion, I'm much more interested in trying to lower the price of gasoline everywhere, here and everywhere else. And we know that that kind of supply side economics is something that I believe in, and something that I think can make us all better. And so we're working very closely with the Speaker and the President and the bill sponsors, the potential bill sponsors, to figure out if there's a better way to do that. I'm hopeful. Nothing's done yet. We haven't seen a bill yet, but I'm hopeful we end up in a better place.
One quick one.
Okay. Yeah, please.
Just why is the onus on the state to act in these national security? Is there any push from the federal government to act?
Yeah, sure, please.
Go ahead,
I'll
go
let
ahead.
Candace. No, go.
I'm like
go.
chomping at the bit to answer that question. Excellent question, sir. The state is stepping in where the national government is not. I mean, there are a few things outlined in the Constitution on the role of the national government. national security usually blips to that radar. That's not to say they're not doing anything, but I would say Congress, there are a lot of potential legislation that they could be working on, and right now they're just trying to fund the government. So more and more you're seeing states step up to the plate to protect national security. I can tell you that I'm working with 4 other lawmakers across the country to assemble a group that would go state to state and talk about how we can shore up our laws all together, because right now it's a patchwork approach, like a quilt, and you're playing whack-a-mole, right, with these nefarious actors. So Texas, Ohio, Nebraska, those are some of the states I'm working with as we come to the table to try and spread the good word of these kind of bills to help push back. So I appreciate the question.
Yeah, I really appreciate that answer. That's the right answer, and I don't want to turn this into a civics class, but Congress was always intended to be the most powerful branch of government. I hate to say that with my legislative friends behind me, but sadly, Congress continues to abdicate their role in actually governing this country. We're very lucky that the founding fathers of our country, the founders, understood that could happen, and they were very wise to divest power, not just between the 3 branches of government at the federal level, but the real brilliance was these 50 state governors that would have significant powers as well, and that we would act as laboratories of democracy where we could learn from each other, and that this is a perfect example of that case. You have a federal government, a federal Congress that is not doing their job to protect this country, but we don't just have to sit on our hands. We can get to work, and we have. You see these good legislators that have jumped in, and because of the laboratories of democracy, there's a state that's doing it right, and now other states are taking notice, and they're taking on that onus as well. So as much as I would love to fix Congress and make Congress work, I can't do that, but we can do something here, and I'm really proud that they were willing to step up and take the lead here. And eventually, I suspect that we will see legislation in Congress that looks a lot like what we're doing here in Utah. Thanks, everyone.